All right. Looks like I may be live. So I am Sasha Rose. I'm the founder of Venus Wisdom, and I have an invitation for those of you who have been following me on Substack and are interested in Venus Wisdom astrology, which is a bit different way of holding the astrology. Actually, hang on 1 second. I want to record this. Okay, so I'm hopping on here because I have so many revelations on this journey and so much to share. And I've decided to go ahead and create a community on a different platform on Substack and to really unpack what I have learned in this current journey. Now, if you don't know me, you haven't been following Venus Wisdom, I've been syncing with Venus for 14 years, and I want to share more what that means, syncing with Venus. What that is at the first pass is to link our own personal journey of transformation, of awakening to the truth of who we are, awakening to the truth of what this realm is, to link that with the Venus cycle, which is a 19-month cycle with Venus and the sun, that actually is the map, it's the structure, it's the template for a heroine's journey, an inner journey of feeling in the initial phase our creative potential, our desire to create a world that we want to live in, a world of peace, a world of reverence with the feminine principle, harmony with nature, where children are protected, where we're really creating and making time for art, making time to be human, and creating villages again and remembering the old ways. The impulse to create that golden dream, that golden era that is being pointed to at this time, as we're seeing the degradation of this realm. We're seeing the falling apart of a realm that's been based on violence, harm of women, harm of children, rape of nature, rape of many things. Oops, I'm probably in trouble for saying that word. But that's the reality that more and more are having to come to face, that this has been hellacious here. And we are feeling into the solutions, feeling into the kind of life that we want to leave and the legacy we want to leave for our children. So for those that are really in this process of unlearning and deconditioning, and you've been going through beliefs that you used to hold to, you used to orient to, and you've been shedding them and being like, wow, I don't believe that anymore. I'm questioning that now. Well, I'm questioning this. Is it really all of them? Or could they all be corrupt? Is it that bad? Like, you just keep going into this process in layers. That's a heroine's journey of emptying our cups of who we were told we were. What we were told is the truth, and to discover it ourselves. We have to empty the cup. So there's the bold, bright morning star. I'm here, I'm alive, I want to create. And then there's that descent, the trials and tribulations of having to wrestle with our attachments and what we thought to be true and what's really true. And who are we? Who are we in our essence? Are we that person we've been told? You know what it's like when you change something inside of you and then the whole world responds to you differently. When we drop the mask, when we show up more authentically, when we risk saying that thing that we feel needs to be said, but no one else is saying it. So it's this journey of emptying the cup and connecting with the truth of who we are. And then in the underworld, deepening as Venus drops out of the morning sky into invisibility behind the sun, in the secret meeting with the sun. And that is an opportunity for us to become so resourced in our own system, in our own bodies, to be able to connect with the power of unconditional love, to be able to remember to call our soul home, to heal the ways that we've been fractured, the way that trauma has disconnected us, disassociated us, to bring us in through that mother love, through this power principle, the principle of love being the most powerful principle in the universe, and define that in our own body, not as a concept, as a lived experience, and to create coherence, be able to create coherence and to heal the trauma, because that's how we get controlled in this realm, is through being traumatized. And then we are running out of fight or flight or freeze, and we're not having access to the kind of proactive, regulated, grounded, centered perspective that is going to help us to be a leader for what's coming as things fall apart even more. That's going to help us to be a leader to actually create the new paradigm. So the underworld is a place where so much deepening happens. This is the initiation to become a woman, a mature woman, an initiated woman. And that happens in a lot of different ways. But when we're harnessing the energy of the cycle, everything gets amplified in our own personal life. And so we deepen. And then we deepen into the truth of who we are. We deepen into our authenticity. And then we come out into Evening Star. Evening Star is about showing up and sharing both our gifts that we've discovered. What are we really here to do? And then who are we to share that with? Who are we to collaborate with? And finding those kindred spirits by actually emanating the truth of who we are, actually showing up in the frequency of who we are. You know, people talk a lot about frequency these days, and the astrology of our Venus, our personal Venus design, really shows us the qualities to cultivate, to magnetize those kindred spirits, to magnetize those soulmate collaborators. And so this is the harmonizing that Venus gives us in relation. This is how we learn how to move together, because we have our gifts, we have our mission, and then we find those that we're meant to move with. And when we move together, we open something up that we could never open alone. But we need to claim our own sovereignty. We need to claim our own sacred path in the morning star. We deepen in the underworld. And then the evening star, we're sharing from this deeper wisdom, risking to be more of us and to see who comes closer, who sparks on that, who sparks on the truth that we're sharing. And so after Venus goes into the evening star, there's this climbing higher and higher and higher, and really embodying that wisdom, embodying it and radiating that wisdom of the truth of who we are. She's showing us, she's giving us this mirror of, like, you are a being of light, you are a star being, and you are here to shine in the truth of who you are. This beautiful diamond light that she emanates. She's in her evening star phase now. Last night I was out at 9:30. I was taking my dog for a walk, and she's been setting around 9:30. So I was like, oh, I don't know if I'll see her, but no, she's still up. So she's getting later and later and later in the West. And you can really be with her and spend time with her. If you want to sync with Venus, that's the first step. Go out and see her with an open mind and an open heart. Preferably with your naked eyes, not through a window. And if you can, your feet on the ground, your feet on the earth, because there's a circuit, there's something that happens that really awakens what I'm now calling our feminine alchemy, which is something that I years ago recognized that all of the teachings on alchemy were mind alchemy. They were Mercury alchemy. They were Hermes alchemy, Hermeticism. And I thought, where's the feminine alchemy? Where's the Venusian alchemy? Where's the heart alchemy? This is all mind stuff. And mind is where we get manipulated. Mind can be in service to heart for sure. All of the parts of us can, but the mind is where the mind control happens. And as we've been waking up to what's happening in this realm, is our beautiful, natural human spirit, how does it get manipulated? How does it get hijacked? Well, trauma-based mind control. So the mind is easily hijacked. And so what is our deeper navigation system? The heart that opens into the soul, that shows us our connection to spirit. And so that's what the journey is about in a nutshell. And I've been teaching on this a little bit on YouTube. I've had a pretty just booty kicking journey in this last cycle that started last March 22nd. And I'm coming out the other side, and I'm inspired to share those revelations and to bring together community to walk this path as conscious women of heart, and to share what we are up against. In a sense, like, we all are on this heroine's journey. A lot of us have had deep warrior training during these times, especially since the pandemic. And we are wisdom carriers. We are really important, wise women for this transition, when there's erasure of what is real, what is organic is happening so fast with everything that's coming in. So the more that we can orient to our own Venus design, because Venus is incorruptible. You know, there's some things about astrology where it feels like it's a bit of a new religion for a lot of people. You know, it's gone mainstream, it's very popular, and it is a powerful tool, but a lot of people use it to create a new cage with their astrological movements and what's happening in their transits. And the new age spirituality has gone mainstream, and a lot of people putting themselves in a new cage. And so I'm really interested in the liberation, the liberation that comes from us living from who we are, claiming our sovereignty, and then starting to work together to discover how can we create the systems, how can we create the villages, how can we create the retreat centers, how can we create the new paradigm, unlearning, unschooling, skill sharing, coming together as humans, projects that we can see now need to happen to get off the control system and the money system, because that's going way fast as far as being able to have the same kinds of freedoms that we have had around exchange of money. So I decided to create this community. If you have been following me for a while, I'm sweating under these lights. If you have been following me for a while, you may know that I did have a community in 2023 on an alternative platform, and it was a lot of fun because it's great to get off the social media, and it's just no place to actually connect anymore in the Facebook groups. You just don't see anything. It was by design. It was by the downfall of that connectivity was by design. So I have created this Substack membership. You are invited, if this is resonating with you, you're invited to join us there, and we will be doing a monthly meeting for questions and answers. I will be sharing content there that I'm not going to be sharing in other places, because I want to have that container for us to really be open to the cutting edge. And so I have been pushed through my own extreme journey and a lot of displacement to be on a cutting edge. And through that cutting edge and through these really difficult situations where I thought I was finding community and then it didn't work out. And then I was moving and really feeling like I didn't know where I belonged and I didn't know where to offer my gifts. I found resources that affirmed everything that I have been coming to in the last 14 years about Venus being the original feminine cycle before the moon, and the moon actually not being so positive, and certainly not something I would orient to, certainly not something I would do any rituals to anymore. But I generally haven't shared that because I want women to have their own journey, and I give them the map and I give them the tools, and many women who start to sync with Venus come to that on their own. But these times are critical. And if you're feeling disenchanted with the moon, if you're questioning the new age spirituality that says, oh, we came here for lessons and school and all this suffering is good for you because you're learning lessons, and you're like, that doesn't feel right. Like, how are children being abused at this level now that we know we can't unsee it? How could a being choose that? Why would we not come in with any of our wisdom that we gleaned from the other life? Why would we come in and get wiped and have to start over from ground zero? If you're starting to feel like there's a lot of superficiality, there's a lot of glossing over of the suffering that is very real, and coming to a pinnacle as we end the Kali Yuga, like this is the dark of the dark. If we can't look this in the eye and say this is a hell realm for, maybe someone has a good spot and a good chart and a good life, but overall, this is a place that does not honor life. It is a death. It is a death cult, really. A lot of what we see is a culture and a society that is oriented to death, not to life, to violence, not to connection and relationship and building together. So if you are curious and you're feeling maybe a little exhausted about like, oh my gosh, the moon's doing this and the moon's doing that, and you have to make your new moon intention and your full moon, and it's also fast. I was part of my moon disengagement. It's like, I just cannot track the moon every 2.5 days. I'm not interested in that. It's too fast. If you want something that's more embodied and actually doesn't hook you into the system in the same way, the moon is definitely a part of the timekeeping system of the matrix. And that's not to say we don't need to know our moon. We don't need to know our codes. It's all helpful. It's really helpful to know our codes in order to understand what we came in with. What was our assignment as far as energetically? What were we given? And I don't know that we chose it, but what were we given as far as the strengths and the weaknesses? If we're going to actually claim our essence, we do need to know that. So it's all useful, but the worship of the moon is problematic in my view. The worship of anything, including Venus, is problematic in my view. I think all of that is the age of Pisces. All of that worship, all of that looking for guidance outside of ourselves is the age of Pisces ending. And it seems like we just have new versions of it. People are leaving Christianity, but then going into New Age spirituality and worshiping all these goddesses and guides and angels and, transferring their connection to the divine externally. So how do we find that wisdom within? We take the heroine's journey. And who shows us the heroine's journey? Venus, Sophia, the original feminine essence, uncorruptible. And this realm may have some kind of overlay that's corrupted, but we know there's a place in us that's uncorruptible. And that's the truth of us. That's the truth of our goodness, the truth of our innocence. Nothing can take that from us. And so the Venus cycle has shown me so many things. And one revelation that I finally had to just say, you know, that's true, is that the sidereal zodiac is more accurate. It just is. And I always thought, well, it doesn't really matter. They both work. I know the sidereal is really good for predictions, but you know, the tropical zodiac, the Western zodiac, you know, I've been studying it for 30 years and I've received a lot of insights on it. It works. But I really had to look at the increased accuracy. And so I switched over to the sidereal zodiac and have been amazed at the accuracy for myself and my clients. It's like readjusting the puzzle pieces so it's so much clearer. And that's important because if I'm going to be helping women to understand their Venus qualities, well, it needs to be the correct sign for that contemplation, for that embodiment, for that living journey I'm not saying this well. That journey of coming home to the truth of who we are. We have markers, we have qualities. Is it water? Is it earth? Is it air? Is it fire? This really helps us to know the actual sign energy of our Venus, and then the cycle energy of our Venus, and the phase energy of our Venus. So that's what I do in the Venus wisdom activation sessions. We go through each of those, and it's very detailed. It's like the orientation to the path of syncing with Venus. And I am going to be sharing on Substack both written materials and monthly gatherings. And the reason I'm coming on here is because I want to make sure that those that are interested in Venus wisdom and this unique way of looking at astrology, holding astrology with the sacred feminine at center in a cycle, looking at everything in that 18-month cycle, and to really be on that cutting edge of truth and questioning, that you know that this is happening. And if you join as a founding member before the 1st, so before tomorrow night, you will receive a 30-minute free session with me to drop you into your astrology. And I'd love to have you come and join us and create that community of those who love sovereignty and appreciate astrology, but don't want to worship it, want to use the map to go beyond the map, want to use these tools to wake up. You know, so this is astrology for liberation from the matrix, not, you know, going to the restaurant and having a steak like in the Matrix movie, you know, like, oh, I want a better steak, or do you want to actually wake up in the dream? So that's what's going on. And so founding member, it's $155 for the entire year. You receive a 30-minute astrology session with me, which is like an $88 value. And I will leave the link in the notes here. And I will still be sharing some things over here on YouTube, but I will be concentrating my efforts on Substack and invite you to come on for the journey and to reorient, like what happens when we orient to this new kind of more truthful way of looking at the astrology, more accurate way of looking at the astrology. And how does that impact how we move with the cycle? So that's the invitation. And you could also join for $13 a month if that's more available for you and you want to be in there. But I do encourage you to become a founding member and come on this journey with us and have some time with me to drop into your personal astrology and to amplify your awakening, amplify your unlearning and relearning, and the way that you're here to know your deep gifts and share them. So come on over if this inspires you, and